Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, and this is an episode for owners of accounting, bookkeeping, tax businesses to help you thrive in your industry and, in fact, have the premier accounting firm in your area. We have each and every week guests on the show to discuss all things running an accounting business successfully, and today's going to be a wonderful example of that. We have as a guest Natalia Zacharin. She is a former guest on the show. We had her a few years ago, and I'm excited to have her back. Back in 2019, after years of working for other firms, Natalia officially opened her own firm, Zacharin Consulting. It's a firm dedicated to empowering businesses to understand and interpret the financial health of their business and significantly improve their bottom line. Using a blend of personal services and expertise, Zacharin Consulting's mission is to bring experience and knowledge to their clients in a meaningful way. So, Natalia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roger. I'm honored and very excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So first of all, just to give it some context, give everyone a quick refresher or reminder how you got into the accounting profession, college, first jobs, anything like that.
Sure. So I fell into the accounting profession completely pulled in by the universe or by accident. I was going through a divorce. And I was a stay-at-home mom for several years before going through the divorce. And of course, I needed to find a job. It was a difficult time. That was back in 2012, where it was very hard to even look for work. So I struggled to find work. I tried everywhere. The first job I could land was a job making $7.10 an hour.
Wow.
As a early to mid 40-year-old and a single mom. That was pretty humbling and difficult, but I knew if I got a job that I could get another job from there. From there, I jumped to a $12 an hour job, and then I finally found a job working for a corporate firm, and they had a position available for an invoicing clerk, and that is where my official financial experience started, my financial journey. And I was an invoicing clerk. I learned the system, but back then it was Microsoft Dynamics. I learned the system pretty well, and then we transitioned into NetSuite. And I just was always basically an invoicing clerk, except that I had a great relationship with the CFO there. And I used to just come into his office and say, "What else can I do for you?" And when they relieved or transitioned the controller out of her position, I walked into his office and I said, "Whatever she was doing for you, if you show me how to do it, I'll do it." And so that was my first experience with QuickBooks. And at the time it was QuickBooks Desktop because they had several umbrella companies. And so he just said, "Just do this." And I had no idea what I was doing. So I tried to learn it myself. He had then left a few years later. I'd been with the company for a total of 6 years. And honestly, the last couple of years, I started seeing that my ability to really move up in the company was not going to happen. They were actually starting to move some of my responsibilities around, the new CFO, and I didn't have the same type of relationship. The company was really changing dramatically. They had several mergers and acquisitions. And so I saw the writing on the wall. I started making less and less money to the point where I could barely afford to live in my house. So I was looking for other work, couldn't find anything. And I was at the time dating someone who owned an accounting firm, a tax firm. And he said to me, "Why don't you just start your own business?"
So I'm going to jump in here. I want to pause here for a second.
Okay.
The first thing I want to do is I want to give you credit where credit's due. So many times I'm impressed with stories like your own where it's not the person who went into college with the intent of the accounting profession, getting the degree, getting into accounting perhaps through some career path that's accounting focused. It's your story of, I think, tenacity, work ethic, it's curiosity that puts you in a position where you go and gravitate into the profession. And I think that's very telling of so many individuals that I see that actually become entrepreneurs. It's that path that I think is non-typical that's so inspiring, and being inspiring like it is, I think it's worth kind of noting. You've accomplished quite a bit, and you've come from a very not unique, but a very specific background, and I really want to kind of celebrate that. But yes, you bring it to the point of there's a difference between working for someone, having a job, doing the work, and perhaps enjoying and loving it and excelling, but having that entrepreneurial spirit and starting a business, totally different thing. So you've got this boyfriend that says, hey, why don't you start your own business? Obviously, they have their own company. It's kind of curious that they said, start your own versus come join me.
Yes.
What's this entrepreneurial thing? And tell us about that. Why did you say, okay, I'll start my own business?
I honestly felt like I had no other options. At that point, I was really not doing well financially. I was on Medicare, or my daughter was, and I didn't feel like I had a lot of options, and I didn't want to not have options. So I thought, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I might as well just try and we'll see what happens. If anything, I'll just make a little bit of extra cash. That's kind of my thought. I figured I can't lose. I can't get any worse. So it just started from there. I just decided I'm going to work on things step by step. I got myself into QuickBooks Online. I took the Pro Advisor certification courses. I reached out to some people. I created my LinkedIn profile, and then suddenly I landed a client after I sent out an email to several people that I reached out on LinkedIn. And someone called me, and I was almost in a panic. I was completely not prepared. And of course, it was a little bit of a disaster. I didn't really know at the time what I was doing, but I think that goes to show that you don't have to know what you're doing. You kind of figure it out as you go. You don't have to know as things are happening. And so he hired me. And I knew enough because I really understood numbers, which I'm very lucky. I was an engineering major way back when, so I really loved math and numbers. I really did well in the financial department when I was in invoicing. So I figured out QuickBooks, and I realized that he needed a huge cleanup, that his prior bookkeeper was not doing things correctly, and I didn't charge for it. So I spent, I think, 45 hours when I calculated back then, working for free to figure things out. So if anybody feels disenchanted when they're starting, it's very common to not price correctly, not really know what you're doing, figuring things out, feeling like you're working and not making any money. I think that's very typical, and that's when a lot of people start giving up.
Yeah. So you're in a situation here, what I would describe as from divorce to accounting to a successful accounting business. I mean, that's the trajectory. So it's important to point out here that in the last 4 years, your business has doubled, tripled year over year. So I'd like to now start there with, what are you focusing on that's allowing you to grow, and what do you think is different year over year?
I think every year the focus is a little bit different. So the first year was figuring out the ideal client, what services I'm really going to be working on, because you can't offer all of these services. You have to figure out what services you're going to focus on what client, and then just really go after the clients that are your ideal client. That takes time and just experience of doing it. I think my biggest aha moment in the first year was I am not charging enough to be able to hire people, and so I can't scale.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the biggest one.
And so as you've been growing your business, I know last year that you acquired an accounting firm.
Yes.
Tell us about that experience. I mean, obviously there's a lot of effort marketing and selling services. There's another strategy of acquiring a firm. How did you identify the firm? How did you figure out how much you were going to be willing to pay for that firm? What was that experience like?
So the experience was actually really difficult, and it definitely did not go smoothly. I don't think any acquisition does. But it was a fantastic learning experience. We're really lucky as accountants that everything that we do and learn about our own businesses, we can provide that experience to our clients, and vice versa. So everything that I learned about the acquisition has been really helpful in me just becoming an even better advisor to my clients. So the acquisition kind of fell into my lap. It was through a group of firm owners that I'm friendly with, and one of them, I didn't know him. I knew him through someone else. He was a friend of a friend that I heard was selling his firm, and several people, we were on Facebook together, and he just put it on Facebook. I have an offer from one of my clients and I want to sell my firm. So
Wow. Okay.
I contacted him and I thought, well, he was a small firm. He was actually smaller than my firm was at the time. So I thought, well, this would be great because I could, quickly get more clients. And I'm in this big growth mode. That's what I want, is I want to double and triple year over year. So this will help in growth. And it was kind of a yes or no, and we can circle back on that with the help. But it just fell into my lap. I offered him. He was ready to get out. I got lucky in the sense that I didn't have to pay him probably what I would have had to if he went to a broker and he went around, the correct way of doing things. So I probably paid about half of what it was worth. And he just wanted to get out and be done with it. And and again, I was very lucky that it fell into my lap because he was willing, instead of me getting a loan, for me to just make a payout to him monthly as I got paid.
Okay. So a few questions. Let me just kind of go one by one through these.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the listeners, when I'm speaking with them, they're always curious and wish I would have asked. So I'm going to ask.
Okay.
How did you value the other firm? Was it based on revenue, EBITDA? What was the way that you came to that dollar amount?
Yes. So it was definitely on revenue and monthly recurring revenue.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we looked at monthly recurring revenue because he was doing, by the way, I only have accounting, bookkeeping, and CFO services. I don't do any taxes. No tax
Okay.
returns. So he also did not have any tax returns or tax clients. And so it was so that aligned really well, that piece of the business. And as you know, usually in accounting, a lot of it is monthly recurring. So that was an easy number to come by of monthly recurring. So I was expecting a 1-to-1 gross revenue. He actually gave me 60% of gross revenue, and partially
Beautiful.
because I think he was ready to get out. He did not share. It's one of the things that I learned. He did not share a lot of information with me. I should have asked a lot more questions.
Like what?
What does each client typically pay? How many clients? So I knew how many clients he had, and I knew what the total was of the monthly recurring. It turned out to be a little bit less, which was okay. But also I found out that his pricing was significantly lower than what I would have done. So that was part of the problem of doing a payout for a year. Our agreement was that if I lost anybody after the second 6 months, that I would still have to continue paying him out the same amount. So I didn't want to lose anybody because I didn't want to lose any money. So I couldn't increase or change any of my pricing.
Gotcha.
I was too scared to. And looking back on that, I probably would have been fine if I did. A couple would have left, a couple would have been increased. Now I'm still in the situation that they've been working with me for a year and I haven't increased pricing. And it's more awkward now.
I'm just going to throw this in just for the listeners, and then I've got some more questions. Yeah, you're right. When you're assessing the worth of the client list and trying to attribute, okay, what do I value each of these clients as? One of the things that you want to do or one way to do this is a ranking of ABC type clients. A clients being ones that the current owner has had or been with for over a year and is paying, and you just pull an arbitrary threshold of, say, an average of $700, $1,000 a month in recurring revenue. The other would be your B clients being under that threshold or under a year in revenue or in being a client. And then C would be anyone that is a new client and too low. So it's 2 checks for the A client, 1 of the 2 checks for the B clients, and then neither of the checks for the C clients. And that's one way to assess, what kind of client list are we dealing with here? A whole bunch of A clients, a whole bunch of B clients, a whole bunch of C clients, and you can evaluate them differently, rank them, and so forth. To my next question is, what was more valuable to you in the acquisition? Was it the client list, the revenue that you were seeing coming from that? Or was it the processes that firm had in place to manage that client load? Was it the employees and how well culturally they would integrate with your own firm? What were you valuing more? Was it the client list, the systems, the employees?
I think at the time it was the client list. Now, going back after the experience, the biggest advantage was the employee. He had one employee, and she's amazing.
Okay, good.
It was also a great learning experience to see how he provided services and how different they were from mine, so that I can think a little bit outside of the box. It helped me to really figure out my deliverables much better on the CFO side. He was brilliant at creating forecasts, and he actually taught me how to create forecasts that were quick and a lot more customized to the clients. So that wasn't something I was great at before, and I've had to learn that very quickly. That really helped me to figure out the deliverables. All of his systems and all of his software, of course, were the opposite of everything I used. So I had to combine and figure out what was best. And I actually liked a lot of the systems I was already using, so I didn't really make the switch there. So I'd say deliverables for the CFO advisory and the employee were the biggest assets, and several of the clients. So out of all of the clients, there were about 20, probably 10 are great clients. And then the other 10 were some startups. Some of them didn't end up, they were product based, so they didn't do well, after all of the turmoil in the economy, or divorces themselves. So we've had like a lot of churn with some of those clients, but I'd say 10 are great. But we've kept over 90%. So even the ones that we don't consider as like our ideal clients, we still have them.
I love it. Okay, so big question: would you do it again? And if so, what would you do the same, and what would you do differently in the process?
Yes, I would definitely do it again, and I plan on it. So one thing is to understand that when you go through an acquisition, it will probably halt a lot of your organic growth if you're doing it by yourself. So if you have a sales team and a marketing team and you don't do your own lead gen, then there's no reason to stop that. Since I was doing all of that myself, I could not afford to put the time into my own marketing and sales campaign. So that halted for 6 months, which is not ever good, because then it takes momentum again to build that back up.
Yeah.
So that was a little tough. I would definitely do it again. I would do a lot more due diligence. I would take less of the word of the person selling than I did, because when they're selling, and his heart was in the right place. I'm not saying that it wasn't, but he wanted to get out. And I think that he knew he wanted to get out for a while. And so a lot of the work wasn't caught up. So just know, if you're going to do an acquisition, the amount of work is going to be not just you learning the new business and the new clients, but you may have a lot of catch up to do as well, or clean up. And then the other thing that I learned that was really interesting and I never really expected was that because he was an owner and he was also doing his own sales and marketing, his clients were people that he had gotten close to and that he had, he did the discovery call with, and there was a relationship there. And then you have a relationship. I do the same thing. I have a relationship with my clients. Building out those relationships was really difficult because the culture was so different. He was from a different state. He had a different type of personality. My personality is very different. And his clients, I noticed, were a lot more like his personality. And my clients are probably a lot more like my personality. And so the culture had really shifted. And that was a little bit off-putting until I got used to it. The people were different. They were from, other areas, other businesses. Some were even a little bit more aggressive than mine would have been. So it was a learning experience. I had to really put on a thick skin and gain confidence in order to work with some of these clients, which is great because I needed it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So in this whole process, you've grown. You said you're going to do it again. How quickly do you feel you could actually do a merger? Is this something that you'd plan on doing, say, one every 6 months, one every 12 months, one every 18 months? How aggressive do you feel you can be as you're actually trying to grow your business as you have?
That's a really good question. I think that I've realized through all of this, so the merger, actually the acquisition was last year. This year, I noticed that we are really needing to put a lot more, we need to tighten up our processes and systems, and we really need to add more people. So I was behind on adding people because I wanted to pay off that loan. But if you have all of those things in place, you have to be really have really good workflows in place, very good processes and systems, answering emails, being able to check people's work, having the right people in place. If you have all those things in place and have a process of getting more people in place quickly, there's no reason why you can't have an acquisition more often. For me, personally, I could probably muster an acquisition a year. I'm not quite ready for another acquisition yet. I need to put more people and processes into place. That's why I know that I'm lacking this right now. But I think I'll be ready definitely in 2024 to buy another firm and also be larger. So the larger I am, the larger the firm I can buy.
Yeah, very good.
So when you're smaller, it's hard to buy a large firm. It doesn't work that well. So
yeah. Generally speaking, the merger, you want to be acquiring someone smaller than you, or there's otherwise you're being acquired, kind of a thing. So we got to keep that into perspective. So what are some of the common pitfalls you've identified as you've run your business? I mean, if you put on that business owner hat, what's some advice you'd be giving to the listeners as you've tried to be the leader you are and run your business as you have? What are some of those pitfalls, and what's some advice you'd give?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest pitfalls is we all, as business owners, are very dialed into the client delivery, working with the clients, meeting with the clients, doing the day-to-day. And we need to transition out of that into being more of the CEO, the business owner, and the leader. That's a difficult transition. I feel like I'm constantly working on that and trying to build a team, a better and better team that can take on more and more work away from me so I can have more of the 30,000 foot view and I can just lead the team. That being said, I've also seen people where they hire all these managers and they completely let go of the control and then the business implodes. So you can't ever let go completely. You always have to know what's happening. And you always have to follow up and follow through. Even if you hire brilliant people, you always have to have a pulse on what's happening in all of the departments of the business. But putting that together is really important. So right now, I am still doing a lot of client delivery, and I've had to really decide every time I'm working on anything, who can take this over? Why am I still doing this? So I go through that exercise every single day. Like, why am I still meeting with this? Who is the person that if it's not someone I have on my team now, who do I need to hire in order to fit and take that responsibility from me so I can continue to build the business and we can fly?
I like that assessment, that idea of asking these questions on a regular basis as to each of these relationships you have with your clients, and just ask, so what can improve? What can I do differently? Who can I delegate to? These are great questions. So what are some of the key factors that you as a business owner can identify that have helped you be this successful? What do you attribute your success to?
Several things. The first thing I would say is knowing your numbers. So we talk about that in accounting for our clients all the time. Are you, as an accountant of your own firm, are you looking at your numbers? Do you have a forecast? Are you doing cash flow presumptions? You have to do that for yourself. That's very important. And sales and marketing. You can't ever stop selling. You can't say, oh, you have to be in growth mode. Or if you're not in growth mode, you're in decreasing mode because of churn. So you do have to be in the growth mode mindset. I believe having a mentor or like a mastermind, mentors, coaches, that I think is invaluable in being successful. They help you pinpoint your blind spots. They help you, teach you how to move on to the next level, answer questions, I've always been a big, just a very big on having coaches and mentors in every aspect of my life. I have, a physical fitness coach. I read a tremendous amount. I think reading a lot, podcasts, listening to podcasts, reading, having coaches and mentors, all of that is really important. Not forgetting that you have to learn all the time, and not learning, like the more you learn, the more opportunity you have to be better and better at what you're doing because someone else has figured it out before you. So it just shortens that time period of figuring things out.
So true. No, you're speaking my language. I'm loving all of this. First of all, just to go back to what you first said, the way we say it is nothing happens until you make a sell. It's keeping that growth mindset of always growing. There's always a better client out there, and at the worst, you're going to get rid of your worst client and acquire a better client. So, I mean, just having that growth mentality is hugely important.
Yes.
And I love how aggressive you are about it. I love that you brought up knowing the numbers. I can't say enough, even in the accounting space, we have an appreciation for the numbers, but how often do we lean on them as we're running our own companies? And so I love how you talked about looking at the numbers, managing to the numbers. We should likewise be using our key performance indicators, KPIs, as we're running our company. We should be managing our employees with metrics and so forth. We should love numbers and use them as we make our decisions. But then you brought up the idea of training, books, coaching, mentoring. I think so often what we fail to realize is we grow as leaders. As our companies increase, grow in various ways, we need to grow and adapt likewise. Otherwise, we become the stagnant part in the company because we didn't evolve. And so we have to recognize that as our business changes, we also have to change. And that requires new skill sets. We've got to become better at HR. We've got to become better at sales. We've got to be better at client acquisition, client retention. There's a lot of things that we need to bring to the table that maybe 2 years ago didn't matter, but today they're essential to the success of our company. And I really like how you kind of brought that to the forefront. And thank you for mentioning podcasts too. I mean, that's got to throw a little thing out there. So what are your plans for the future? What's on your horizon? Where do you see the accounting profession going? And what are your plans to adapt to that?
I'm very excited, actually. I do see the accounting profession as becoming more of a profession that is noticeable as being important. It's becoming more advisory rather than just compliance in both in taxes and in accounting. So a lot of tax firms are now offering tax strategy. We offer tax implementation for tax planning on the accounting side because there's a lot of implementation and support that needs to happen on the accounting side. So understanding tax strategy and tax planning is very important, I think, for any accounting firm. Doing the advisory services, not just bookkeeping, is not it's not data entry. I believe the more we're out there and talking to more and more business owners, for them to understand that hiring your mom or your employee's girlfriend or boyfriend to do the books just because they're paying them very little money and they don't know what they're doing because they consider it as just something that has to be done is really not helping them at all. And that's what I see a lot. Or we meet a lot of business owners that don't have any accounting in place. They've been in business for years. They're at 7 figures and haven't filed taxes in years. So that's out there as well. So just really, I think that advising people, talking to more people, I'm seeing that that's starting to have a lot of benefit in general. And I do believe, and I think that you are probably agree with me, the advisory piece is where it's really heading because there are a lot of people now that we have the internet and Zoom and it's super easy to get in touch with people. Anybody can learn to be a bookkeeper or an accountant. So there's, I don't consider ourselves to really have a lot of competition. So there are a million accountants on every street corner. I live in the middle of a small town. There are literally accountants and offices for accountants on every street corner. Everybody's starting their own accounting business. Yet there's so many opportunities out there. And I think the people that really focus on the learning and understanding of what it's like to be an entrepreneur and how to help entrepreneurs and to give them real advice, I think that's where it's headed. And that's where it's going to bring the value the most in the future for everybody.
I love it. I love it. So the advisory, I have to agree with you. I think what more and more business owners are asking themselves, and they're leaning to us as accounting professionals, is the phrase, therefore what? We give them the financial reports. We're giving them this narrative, basically this accounting history of the company. We're giving them today with technology, real-time information, but to help educate them as to therefore what, make better business decisions with this information.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to pivot quicker and faster in their businesses. And I think that's really important. And that's where we can step in as an accounting profession. So my next question for you is regarding a moment in your life where, not having been formally trained initially with an accounting background, with a degree and so forth, but your evolution with tenacity, work ethic, going in, learning what you needed to, being that person that was going to thrive. How did you transition mentally and become in your own mind that accountant that you are for your clients today? In other words, a lot of people experience what's referred to as imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, we all experience this moment, and even with our degrees and experience, there's this moment where all of a sudden you realize that what you have matters, that it has worth, that your perspective in business can be beneficial to your clients. And all of a sudden you recognize that you have this worth and it's no longer a facade. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but the point
Mm-hmm.
is there is this moment I think most of us all experience, whether we're in our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, something happens where all of a sudden we realize this is I'm no longer who I thought I was. I am who I am. Do you remember that moment? I do for me.
I have experienced imposter syndrome a lot, especially in the beginning, especially as I was learning. It was interesting. I've had people come into my life at certain points, and I really remember certain things. I remember once someone told me that you're teaching someone and they know less than you. So your clients know less than you do, even if you don't feel like you know everything. And that's true. And they don't have the time to learn it. So you already come there. This is your experience and your expertise and something that you want to really become an expert at. So you already come to a lot of these clients with something to bring to the table. And then the imposter syndrome, I feel like a lot of us keep feeling the imposter syndrome because we are constantly growing. And so we are not who we want to be yet. And that's how it was described to me at one point, is that you feel like you're an imposter sometimes because you want to be this other person, or you want to have this other vision that you have of yourself, that someone in the future, like your future self, you're not that person yet. So you feel like an imposter. You're growing into that person. So I think that the changes that are constantly happening in your mind, your growth, and if you feel like being an entrepreneur is difficult, you are absolutely correct. I don't think that anything has given me more growth mentally and in my mindset, emotionally, with emotional intelligence, with just knowledge. Nothing has made me grow as quickly and as tremendously as being an entrepreneur.
I love it.
So it's not an easy path.
No, it's not. But, I think we're so much better people because of it. I think the stresses we experience make us better people, better humans. I think we contribute so much more to society. So this is hugely important. I love it. And as for that imposter syndrome, I do believe most people experience it, especially when you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Yes.
You're intentionally putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. You're intentionally kind of going out on a limb. And I think that's where you get these new experiences and opportunities. And it's because of that over a few years or so, you're going to find yourself in a much better position simply because you've now acquired the experiences that you've needed to be who you intended to become. So very much appreciate that. My story real quickly, I was actually at a conference. I was sitting in the audience, and the company, Universal Accounting, we were very successful. I was with a great team at the time, and we had just recently been recognized by Inc. 500, Utah 100, getting a variety of awards and accolades. And here I am in the audience, and on stage is someone speaking of business and the successes. And all of a sudden, I realized that I could say what they were saying. I could say it more concisely. I could say it more definitively. I could actually give better instruction and direction. And the individual on the stage was, as I could tell, late 20s, early 30s. So I had more experience than they did. I was just realizing as I'm in the audience, this epiphany of, I've got more to offer. Why am I not sharing this? And that really became that moment, that hinge point in my career where all of a sudden I realized I didn't need anyone else's permission. I had the experience, I had the expertise, I had something to give back, and by darn I should. And that's led me on this trajectory of growing the business as I have. I became the president of Universal Accounting after that, and then from there have done a number of things that I'm very proud of. But it's all because of that one moment where all of a sudden I realized I do have everything it takes. I have everything that I need to be that success. There's no one else's permission I need anymore to do this. And it's a game changer. Your mental health, I think, changes because you're not fighting with yourself anymore. Giving myself that permission was huge. So yeah, wonderful experience. The next thing I wanted to ask is, how has being an entrepreneur changed your life? How are you blessed because of what you're able to do now running your own successful company?
Oh, in so many ways. First, of course, the reward of seeing the positive changes that we're helping, that we're making for clients. Even if we're just doing, for instance, the month-end close, the bookkeeping piece, we're still helping them staying organized and compliant, and giving them a lot more information that they wouldn't normally have, and giving them peace of mind. So just having, it's rewarding to see clients really thrive. Having a team, we have a team of 5 right now. We're actually, and we're about to hire 2 to 3 more people. So having a team means to me that now, of course, I have the responsibility also to run a profitable firm in order to be able to sustain the livelihoods of these 5 other people and their communities. So that's exciting. It has also granted me the ability. So I mentioned in 2019, we were nearly at, close to poverty levels in the financials. Making more money for my family. I'm still a single mom. Has been so great. It's been great for my child to see me basically crawl out from under a rock and be able to establish myself. And she's seen the struggle and she's seen the changes. And the biggest, I think the biggest positive is that we have a lot more flexibility. I work a lot more hours than I ever have before. I still work a tremendous amount of hours. There's a lot of sacrifice, but there is flexibility in my schedule. I can take off when I want to. I can go on vacation when I want to. It's also afforded me the ability to spend more money on my health and well-being. So I have personal trainer. I have a nutritionist now. I'm going to probably hire a personal chef. I no longer go to just, I'm not stuck going to doctors and getting medical health advice from people just locally and that take insurance and that are bound by a lot of other things. I have a lot more resources to keep myself healthier, and I take advantage of that. So my goal is to stay as healthy as possible so I can continue working and doing what I do, and then also continue having fun when I'm not working and building a vision. So a lot of that has been very, it's been a huge blessing. And then what we do also, because I really believe in karma and I believe in putting good out into the world, is every month I take 1% of my gross revenue and I donate it to some charity.
That is awesome.
So I used to be able to provide more time and volunteer a lot more. Now I don't have the time because I'm running a firm, and I'd rather, when I do have some time, spend with family and friends. So I've turned to donating more money, and that makes me really happy also, to special nonprofits that really speak to me. So it's just been a blessing all around. And that's really what I focus on in those hard moments when I'm like, I'm so done. I just want to sell it. I'm done.
Yeah, yeah.
I think about all the great things that have come from it as well.
Yeah, it adds to your purpose. I like that. It's that proverbial why, and having that 1% that you're giving away really adds to that. I love it. So a related question, what are you grateful for?
I am grateful for a lot of different things. I am grateful for the health to be able to do what I do. I'm very grateful and to have the brain to be able to figure it out. I'm very grateful for the clients that support us and trust us. I'm grateful for my team that do an amazing job and stand by me and are very loyal. And they feel supported by me as well. So we have a fantastic team. Currently, we're all women, not intentionally, but that's we're all women currently, and a couple of us are single moms. And grateful for the ability to have some flexibility in my life. All of the teachers and mentors and coaches I've had, past, present, and future. And the guy that was my boyfriend that told me to start my business, we're still together. It'll be 5 years. I'm so grateful to him to bring that up as a possibility, because it didn't even occur to me. And then, of course, family for supporting me. The funny thing is, I didn't even tell my mom when I started the business, and then I didn't tell her when I quit my job.
Oh, wow.
So I told her much later. And now she doesn't even, she's in her 80s, so she can't really relate to what I do that much. But I'm really grateful that she's so happy and proud. And she was helping me at one point financially. And it was the most, I don't want to get choked up. It was the most amazing feeling to call her and say, Mom, I don't need your help anymore.
Thank you for sharing that. I can relate to that. It's one of those things where in our lives, sometimes we are dependent upon others for the successes that we're about to experience, and we need their support, we need their help, and there are times in our lives where we need that, and it's great to get to a point where you're able to say, I'm able to be self-sustaining and at some point give back, and you've done both. So congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
Let me wrap this up. I really want to wrap this up and give homage to everything that we've been talking about, and then I'm going to come back to you for a closing thought. The first thing I'd like to give Natalia some I guess accolades for is just her beginning. I think so many individuals can relate to this idea of just taking life as it's throwing these curveballs at us and really standing up and saying, I will survive and thrive. And she did exactly that. I think her story is very inspiring. I love that she was able to actually transition to the point where she took that invitation to start her business, go out on a limb and do so. And she got that first client, and it was a surprise, as I think it always is, as to how that first happens. But nonetheless, it put her on a trajectory to where she's grown her business year over year over year to the point where she's now acquiring other accounting firms. And I think one of the things that's very important as a message to all of us is, as peers, we should be in communication with one another, because there is an exit strategy to what we're doing, and it oftentimes involves perhaps selling the firm off to someone else. And to have that communication going on, that community where the opportunity presented herself and she was able to take advantage of it. I loved her story as to how she was able to assess the valuation of the business she was acquiring, determining whether or not it was a good fit and how to actually make that migration. She shared with us a few things related to how that evolution occurred as she brought in those clients and worked with them over a period of time, retaining them so that she could actually get the worth that she was hoping to out of that. I liked how she gave us some insights as to how she will move forward in these mergers to give us a few bits of best practices. That was very helpful. I also love the idea of what it is that we each experience, where we deal with and how we cope with that imposter syndrome that so many of us can relate to. And I love her story as to how she was able to have that transition, and her insights as to how we each individually can actually experience that for ourselves and be the authority, the experts that our clients need us to be. That's beautiful. And then this whole thing of gratitude, how her life has been blessed being in this role as she runs her business. I really appreciate her sharing that she takes a percent of her business and obviously donates that. That's beautiful, because I think once we get into that give back mentality, I do believe that we become better citizens, better parts of our community. We start to realize that we have purpose in more than just making money and living ourselves or having our own livelihood. And obviously she brought up her employees, the importance that she has to be productive and successful for their own benefit. Lots of good nuggets in this discussion. Lastly, I appreciated her sharing the gratitude, and I really can relate to that moment of her sharing the idea of calling mom and saying, "Mom, thanks for all the support and help, but I'm happy to say I don't need it anymore." And really to go beyond that and start giving back is hugely important. So love this discussion. Wonderful little nuggets of information and insights. Great wisdom to be shared. So Natalia, what last word of wisdom would you like to share with everyone?
I would just share that keep going, don't give up. There's going to be times where it's very overwhelming. I feel like being an entrepreneur and owning a business is like being a caterpillar, where we start getting really itchy because we're growing out of our skin and it's very uncomfortable. And we just have to break out of that constantly. And sometimes you just have to power through. And you know what? I think I would also say it's very important to have that coaching or that mentorship to be able to see your blind spots. That is really important to be able to, and that's why your clients hire you. That's where the advisory comes from. But as advisors, we also need advisors.
Love it. Very true. Very true. Love the mentoring and the coaching that I've received and paid for, and it has accelerated my success, and I encourage everyone else to do the same. And I would assume each of us can see it in the work that we do with our own clients, how we help them and accelerate their successes as well. So well said. So here's a few things just to wrap up for everyone listening. First and foremost, I would like to encourage you to go to the episode description. We've got a good deal of resources there to help you out, one of which is a section of free resources for you as you're running your accounting, bookkeeping, and tax business. These free resources are particularly geared to help you become the firm that you need to be, the premier accounting firm in your area. I also want to invite you to join us for GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual event for owners of accounting, bookkeeping, and tax businesses. It's at GrowCon that you're able to get the information you need to be the premier leader. Why? Because there on the stage, we have the experts. You have the opportunity to visit with your peers. And lastly, interact with those individuals that are basically committed to your success here at Universal Accounting. Lastly, I do want to point out that with regards to this podcast, if you haven't already, subscribe. We have each and every week new episodes to help you actually focus on what it is you need to do to become the premier accounting firm in your area. So subscribe. Make sure you set that reminder so that you can be notified as to when each of the episodes come out. And also go back and binge. Listen to the past episodes where we've had some phenomenal experts on the show that you can actually learn from. And I encourage you to go back and listen to those past episodes. So please go to the episode description, take advantage of these free resources, subscribe to the podcast, come to GrowCon in May. And lastly, always remember this. If you would like to apply these principles in your business, if you'd like to ask some questions, give us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777, or you can also visit us at universalaccountingschool.com. And always remember, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and be safe out there.